Hey guys, Kelade here. Welcome to my Mythic Argus kill/commentary video. For this fight, we're gonna pre-pot, we're gonna pop our cooldowns right on pull, and as we follow the boss, we're gonna rotate with the boss just so we don't get parried as much, right? I'll stay behind the boss as much as we can. For the first Sargeras Gaze, which I'll go into the specifics later, for the first one, I'm in the front left, and only your melee has to spread for this first one. Only melee can get the two mechanics that are gonna come out for the first one. So then after that happens, I see I don't have anything. I go back to stack with the rest of the range group. When the buffs drop, there are two buffs, right? The right one, the sky is going to be mastery and crit. And then the left one, the ocean, is going to be burst and haste. So you guys see I do end up grabbing that crit mastery just for a few seconds. And then I'll swap over to the haste and verse. Now, generally for Fury Warriors, we're going to want the haste and verse. That's more so because haste and verse are just going to be better stats than crit. Even if mastery is our best stat, crit is such a bad stat for us. You're going to want the verse and haste. Now, unfortunately, I did get rage here. The way that our guild is doing it, rages don't get buffs. So unfortunately, I can't keep stacking up my versatility buff. But the whole reason why you don't want to pick up your correct buff immediately right away is that it takes like 30 seconds for them to spawn in between each other, and the buffs last 30 seconds. And especially because after the first orb, there's generally going to be some movement or stacking or baiting of these cones of deaths to where you can't always grab their orbs the instant they spawn. So that's why you delay that first orb just for a few seconds. That way you have an ample enough time on the duration to just keep getting the rest of the orbs. Now, luckily, I no longer had the rage there, so I was able to pick up that orb before it disappeared. So it's not too bad, but I am behind in the orb count compared to everybody else. Now, in regards to what gear I'm using for this fight, I am going with the single target gear setup, legendary pants, legendary massacre ring, and I'm using Sargeras and convergence. And as far as for talents, it's also a single target, very similar to the Agmar setup, which is actually exactly the same. Endless rage, double time, avatar, war paint, frothing berserker, bloodbath, and reckless abandon. Now we don't need bounding stride as much because we don't really need to leap that much. And the war paint is pretty nice because there's a lot of constant damage in this fight, and a lot of damage that you just can't even avoid if you wanted to. Now, really quickly going over the Sargeras Gaze, right? Whenever he casts the gaze, there's going to be two things that come out: Sargeras Rage and Sargeras Fear. The Rage is, you guys will see in a second when it comes out, it's going to be the circle, but there's kind of like a square spike around it, right? You guys see the warrior right there walking off your screen up top on the right side of my screen now. That's the Rage, and stacked on top of me, these little just basic circle looking ones, they're the fears. The rage one, you can't have anybody inside it. If anybody's inside it, they gain a stacking dot that does a lot of damage. The fears, you need to have somebody else stand inside it. If nobody inside it, now you have a ticking dot that does damage. So two mechanics that come out at the exact same time, both have completely different ways of how you're dealing with it, right? One is you stand by yourself, the other one you have to stack with other people. Now, of course, the way that our guild is doing this phase is, you guys can see the tank that has the Agmar's boom is standing on top of us. He's lagging out a little bit, but he's standing right in the middle of us. What that does is any damage that the group member takes within that boom, the tank just takes it. So right now, for our strategy, we're just having everybody stack in melee. The tanks are just gonna put their buff on everybody, and they're just gonna take all the damage for us. Unfortunately, I stepped out at the last seconds, so I still took some of that damage, but it's not too bad. So you can see my spread is always going to be like front left, at least for phase 1 and phase 2. Kind of like the very front left, as close to the boss as I can get. And so generally, that's how you want to split it out. Depending on how much melee you guys have in this fight, you're going to want to split out some melee on the left and some melee on the right. So that way, when the rages get out, there's a melee on each side, as you guys can see here. And then every time that he does the Sargeras Gaze, you get one more rage or fear. It just alternates between the two, right? So this boss will phase right here at 40%. And then once 40% happens, you can either choose to die right away, which is you just stack all of your rages on top of each other. But some people in our guild have started not dying here because we don't actually require the third pot until like a minute afterwards. So that's why it doesn't matter. But if your guild is trying to push the boss as fast as you can and you want to use your third pot immediately as you res, you do want to get killed there because this RP, it's slightly less than 1 minute, but it is pretty close. So right here, obviously there's nothing to do. Talking about the pots in this fight, right? So just be sure that you're going to get 4. Generally, most guilds, you're going to get 4 pots in use. So 2 pots will just use, right? You use it on pull, and then you use it somewhere in the phase 1 just so you can phase it faster, so you can get less cones, less rages out, all that good stuff. Your third pot is probably going to use, if you somehow can't hit the ad because you're a melee with the raise on the boss, then you can just use it whenever you have your cooldowns, or you can save it for orb, which most people are going to do. And then for your fourth pot, you're going to want to save that for, after you die, of course, when you can use it again. And then you can either use it on an orb again, or you can just push the boss damage. All right, so we're all going to release here, charge the boss, pop for our cooldowns. Don't need to save it because you're going to be here for a while, because you want that end of all things to last as long as it can before you interrupt it. But do make sure you actually interrupt this cast at one time. You don't want that to go off, because it's just an insta wipe if it goes off. But you do want to get as close as you can, because that's all free DPS while he's channeling that ability. So during this phase, you're going to see these red scythes appear in the room. There's always going to be 2 sets of these scythes coming out. So that first set, right, it spins, it goes across the room. The next set starts spinning and goes across the room. Now, the general rule of thumb is where the first set of scythes landed, that will not be where the second set of scythes land. Does that make sense? So if you see the first set of scythes come out, you can actually just stand where they just scythe and you won't get hit by that second one. So of course, these Acropolis modules come out, and they're more of a priority in Mythic difficulty than other difficulties, right? On normal, heroic, LFR, whatever, we just let the range kill it. But on the Mythic difficulty, you want to kill those as fast as you can. You're gonna get around 5 or 6 depending on your group's DPS, how fast you're gonna finish this phase. I think we still have to deal with 6 of those. So I think that was the second one we killed. Oh, and the reason why, in case you guys are wondering, later on, we're gonna be, I guess, mass killing the entire raid, and that's to avoid the 1 sentence Sargeras mechanic, and 2 also the scythe that are gonna come out. So the sentence Sargeras, what that does is that it's gonna pick 2 members in your raid, and it's gonna grab a chain connecting to both of your raid members. When the raid members walk too far away from the chain, it'll break, and everybody will take a massive AoE dot. But if they don't break it, the person with the chain is going to be taking an even bigger dot. So it's kind of dependent on your group how they want to do this. And eventually, of course, when the buff just ends, or the debuff just ends, you're going to take the dot damage anyways. So a lot of groups will try to break them, 1 break first, and then once the dot from the first break is over, the second guy breaks. All right, so here we all die, we all release at the same time, and at this point, once you've rezzed this many times from the tree, the tree is no longer going to be available. And it's very important that you all res at the same time, because there's a time window where once the last res is reached, you have a second or 2 for everybody else to walk through and get rezzed. So once again, as the Apocalypse module comes out, we just pop our cooldowns on it. Now for you, whether or not you want to save your cooldowns to have it for the those orbs, it's dependent on your raid. When we first were progressing this boss, I was saving my cooldowns for that orb, but we kind of had a switch in who wants to prioritize that more, and our hunters are actually prioritizing the orbs or more, saving their cooldowns more for it. And especially you'll see in a second, when we get to the last phase, why that's the case, because I actually can't even kill the orb or do that much damage to it. So this, I guess, in a way, this is the real last phase for us, where our strategy even changes. Now we have a melee on the left side and the right side of the boss, whereas before we had both melees on the left side for the Sargeras rages. And I'm pretty much going to be standing in this spot on the boss for the entirety of the rest of the raid, right? Because what happens is there's always going to be, from this point on, at least 2 melee Sargeras rages. And because our Demon Hunter is permanently dead because he's downstairs collecting orbs to give us more damage from the Titan Forge buff, there's 1 less melee DPS. So the chances of me getting picked for our Sargeras rage is pretty high, and I pretty much do get picked every single time in this video. So I'm just gonna chill here with my rage, not stand with the group, just essentially just single targeting the boss for the rest of the run. And that's actually really good. If you can get all your fear warriors to get this, great, because we're at 21%, right? I'm saving my rage. Execute phase about to start, and I just start executing. At this point, my focus right now is just focusing on killing Argus as much as I can, because I don't need to touch the orbs, because everybody else that doesn't have the melee Sargeras rage is able to kill the orbs, and I can focus more damage on the boss. Now, of course, if I ever do have something up, if I can meet Cleaver and Rampage somehow, or if I can, have a Odin's Fury hit the ad, you guys will see me do it. I will do that later on in the fight too. But at this point in the fight, it's more so just a race to get the boss down as fast as possible. Of course, once Lust comes back up again, we'll be able to use it one more time right before the boss dies. There isn't too many guilds that have killed it sub 10 minutes, so definitely lust on pull, just so you can have lust for the last part of this fight too. So yeah, my spread place is always going to be the front right. Once again, get the rage without fail, and I just continue executing on the boss. Now, so right here, this is what I'm talking about, where yeah, it's nice. So like I perfectly actually get battle cry here. So I battle cry, execute, and I walk over there, you know, just splash that Odin's Fury onto the orb. Might as well help them kill that orb as fast as you can. And then we just keep executing the boss. And unfortunately, or I guess fortunately, if you're a Fury Warrior, a lot of people start dropping off at this point. That's obviously going to prolong execute phase. Ideally, your raid is prioritizing healing you at this point because your Juggernaut stacks is so high, right? At this point, if you get your battle cry up again, right, you're going to be doing close to like 10 million DPS with this amount of stacks. And this is why also I try to save as much defensives as I can if I don't even use them. If I get chains on me, I didn't for this one, I'll be using my inner rage and health pots to survive if I need to. But if I don't have them, I'll definitely be using it on this part of the fight just to make sure I can live through the execute phase, because that's when you're doing the most amount of damage that you possibly can. You know, a few more executes and the boss is dead. And overall, I think for people that are interested in the boss count, I think it took us around 304 pulls to kill this boss. That's not too bad. You guys are seeing the second kill of the fight. The first kill, I had to break chains, drop my stacks. I don't even want to talk about it. But I think this video is a good representation of what Fury Warriors bring to this fight. And that's it for the Mythic Antorus commentary videos. Let me know what you guys think of all the videos down below. And as always, feel free to subscribe to see more. See ya. Oh, that's all stupid. Fuck. Pop all my fucking stacks. Holy shit.
I might die here, get ready for tank. If I get there. Never mind, I'm alive.
Go boys, go boys, go boys.
Come on. Go.
Holy shit, it's already over. Oh my god.
Victory lap, boys.
Oh.
Victory lap, boys.
Wait, that was so anticlimactic. Holy
shit.
fuck. I dropped my fucking stacks. Holy shit.